Remember, in the course of discussing movies, the host will spoil plots. You've been warned. Listen to their screams.
Greetings, ghouls and creeps, and welcome to Listen to Their Screams, a horror podcast that feels like you're chatting with friends. I am one of your friends, Dave. We're joined as always by our other friend, Ike. Ike, how are you?
Oh, man. I am tired. I was not ready for another week of work after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, me neither, but alas, here we are.
Gotta get that bread.
Yeah. Adulting sucks sometimes, but it is what it is.
Yes, indeed.
How else can I buy all these cool horror collectibles if I don't work?
That's true. That's true. You gotta have money. You gotta have money to be able to spend money.
It's a vicious cycle. Vicious cycle. And this week on the show, we are going to be reviewing Night of the Missing, which is now available on Screambox. But we have lots of stuff to chat about before we get there. First of all, like we always do, a thank you to our wives, Monica and Kayla, for all they do and for putting up with us. They will be back very shortly with another episode or edition or whatever you want to call it. A headache of a Wise Rebuttal or some fashion. Maybe we'll do something Christmas related with them because everybody seemed to like our Halloween special. Maybe we'll do some kind of Christmas special. I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? But they'll be back on soon. Let's just put it that way. So, Ike, before we dive into anything, did you watch anything this week?
Well, honestly, not a lot. My wife and I started rewatching a show we watched before called what was it called? Vampire Diaries. Vampire Diaries. When you first watch the show, the first season, it's very much like a teeny bop show. Very cringy storylines, but it eventually gets better. Like it gets kind of like gory, and like some of the storylines are pretty cool. They introduce a lot of different like creatures and mythical things, so it's pretty neat. But yeah, so we started rewatching that, but otherwise not much at all. I've been very busy.
Me too. I didn't watch jack shit really. I just I don't even know. I mean, I did watch some Thanksgiving type things, some specials, cartoon animated stuff, things like that. A few of those little things, but no, otherwise nothing. But we are on the cusp of the holiday Christmas season. True. So that means I will be diving full force into all my Christmas horror, which I love. I absolutely love. A few coming up, but we'll be reviewing some new ones. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Well then, I guess that just leads us right into our weekly segment.
Horror Hot Take.
And this week we have another horror hot take. This is a segment where one of us, which is typically Ike, comes at us with a hot take that is horror related. And we get to discuss that just a bit. Eventually, maybe I'll have a hot take. I don't know. I'm so outspoken all around. I don't know. My hot takes are just pretty much just spew out all the time. But so Ike, are you queued up and ready for another hot take?
I think I am. I think I got something good this week.
All right. Well, lay it on us. What do you have?
All right. So for this one, I do have to give just a little bit of backstory for people who maybe haven't been watching the show for super long. One of our favorite horror film franchises is the Halloween franchise. Mm-hmm. We've actually ranked the Halloween films, and that was not too long ago. It was actually right around Halloween, so
45th anniversary.
Yep, 45th anniversary. And if you have been watching the show for a while, you know one of our darkest moments on the show probably was when we reviewed Halloween Ends. And
speaking of which, before you get too far, just with the mention of Halloween Ends, I think I know where you're going with this. But anyway, just as today, as of we're recording, all the Spotify stuff's come out, right? The Wrapped, the Year and stuff, and all that,
Yeah.
And the Halloween Ends, as far as Spotify goes. Now, this is not everything. This is just through listeners of Spotify. That was our number one episode for the year.
Really?
Yes, so there you go with that. Okay,
Well,
go ahead, though.
Well, speaking of, I did not know that was our number one. Weird coincidence. But last time when we talked about Halloween Ends, it was during our ranking of the entirety of the Halloween franchise. During that episode, I did mention that I had yet to rewatch Halloween Ends since it came out last, whenever it came out. And basically I was like, it may not have been as bad as I thought it was. Who knows? I haven't watched it yet, and I really wasn't sure if I was going to watch it. But not too long ago, I rewatched it about less than a month, probably about 2-3 weeks ago. I rewatched the entirety of that trilogy: Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. Mm-hmm. Sat down, watched it, and I thought about it. And I really sunk it in, right? I really soaked in that movie. And I remember just a little backstory, a little peek behind the curtain. I was actually watching it on a Friday. It was before, so it was a weekend. I work a little bit later on Fridays at my current job, so sometimes in the evenings we're a little bit slow, and that's perfectly fine. But I'll throw on a movie. So I threw on Halloween Ends, thinking, okay, I'll probably get through this. And I gotta be honest with you. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I would even go as far to say is that it does beat out some of the other movies that I had previously ranked above it. And I think I fell victim to the age-old quandary of I listened too much to what other people were saying about the movie, and I let it impact my own opinion. And I'm a big enough man to admit that when I watched this movie at first, I was like, you know what? I don't know what to think about this. So I took to the internet, and that was my mistake. I should not have relied on the internet to provide me guidance on this matter, because it never works. And so, yeah, when I watched that movie for the first time, I was a little disappointed. And I think that really just, what's the best way to think? It's snowballed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You start a snowball at the top of a hill. You let it roll loose. It eventually will build momentum. It'll eventually become larger and larger and larger until it's a boulder, right? So that's what happened. I think I was a little disappointed with the movie when I first saw it because it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah.
But and something we've talked about a lot, Dave and I, on this show, is that sometimes going into movies with expectations is a good thing. Sometimes it can be a bad thing, especially if your expectations are not met by that movie. Sometimes that can skew how you perceive that film. And truthfully, that was what happened. I went into the movie with very, very high expectations. I went into it with expectations that they were going to do X, Y, or Z thing. I mean, you can even listen to our episode before we reviewed that movie. We talked about theories. We actually theorized about a couple of things about how Halloween Ends was going to tie into the greater story that was being shown. And I had a lot of expectations that were even shown before then. So I have this, it's super weird doing a podcast because I have a very detailed documentation of my progress. We have my theories, my disappointment in the film, me saying I'm going to rewatch the film, and then now me saying, well, I really like the movie. And I guess the hot take here is that it really was not as bad of a movie as I remember it to be. I see why some people wouldn't like the movie, and I see why some people may have had disappointment. But when I really stopped to consider what they were trying to do with this movie, I think it made sense, especially just because, and we can get into what I think the movie was about and why I think I changed my opinion. But I think that's my hot take, is that I was very outspoken about this movie when it first came out, and I let it sit for a year, and then I rewatched it, and I'm like, well, shit.
Yeah, and I mean, to a degree, I agree. My thing is this: I think I've always said I don't think it's a bad movie, really. It's a decent movie, and it feels a little awkward to me as a Halloween movie. It's just, I don't know. It's doesn't fit in. I don't know. And that's been kind of my thing. It's like, if this was going to be supposedly the end, or at least the closing of that chapter of it, or whatever you want to call it, because I don't think Halloween will ever stay dormant or whatever. It just felt like a peculiar way to end it on. I felt like I don't know, there should have been maybe a little stronger finish. But I've never really thought necessarily that it was a bad movie. It was just a little confusing to me, and not even confusing as in the intent or what the movie is about, just as in it didn't feel like that real firm period on the end of this trilogy. I don't know. It felt more like a middle type movie to me, like it was transitioning something a little bit, and so that's kind of what I've always felt with it. I always thought overall, it's not that. I mean, we jest. We've always joked about the Halloween Ends thing, but we've always said that it's very tongue in cheek. It's not. We've always said we've never hate the movie as much as we've carried on per se, right? Even from the get go, right? It was, and I know we use the phrases "let down" and this, that. Those might have been. Those are. I mean, and that's the thing about reviewing a movie when it comes out and when you're kind of fresh on seeing it, right? There's a lot of that heat of the moment reaction to it, which is fine. That's really relevant, and that's the way it should be. There should be that heat of the moment, but you're right. There is a time to, and that's why we do some of these. That's why there's these anniversary type things, right, where you look back on movies, and you can oftentimes appreciate them in different lights, right?
Right.
And I think this is a movie that, and I believe, and I could be wrong. It's not like I document everything we say. Surprise, surprise. But I do believe at some point in time, I feel like we did say that there would come a day that Halloween Ends would be seen in a much different light, much as Halloween 3 was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we had a discussion on that, and I still stand firm on that. There was a lot of heat on this movie when it first came out. To be fair, there's a lot of heat damn near on everything when it first comes out with the internet. And I know, we put a little of that heat on there, and then for, good or bad, but we did get the balance of, hey, it's not that it's that bad. It just felt awkward to us at that time. I stand by that. In that moment, it did feel awkward because it's different than the other two. Not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It felt different. And I still have flaws with Halloween Ends. There are still some things that I would tweak about it. I'm still, even though it's not, it's still semi-enjoyable. I still have issues with some of the way that Laurie Strode is portrayed in it. Given the foundation they laid in the first two, it feels like a very weird leap for me. And I stand by that a little bit, but whatever, it's a movie. We have suspended belief for a lot more than that in the past. Anyway, though, I think this is one of those movies that people will continue to soften on. I think I'm at my level of enjoyment with it. It's not one of those movies that I will ever, when I rewatch the franchise, that I dread. It's not that kind of stuff. I don't dread a rewatch of it. I kind of stand behind where I've ranked it. But again, when we talked about ranking the Halloween movies, it was difficult because overall there's not that many that we really have a strong dislike for even. So it's kind of saying even the ones ranked low, it's not even that we dislike them that much. It's just maybe we didn't like them as much as some of the others. And because I love the franchise as a whole so much. So yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. And I've watched it a couple times. It's been a little bit since I've rewatched it myself. But each time I rewatched it, I'm like, I don't know. It's not as bad as what that first impact was. That wound's not quite as fresh, and it feels a little different. Yeah. I don't think it's as strong as Halloween or Halloween Kills or whatever the other one was. I still don't feel like it's as strong as those two. But I'm not even sure that's a knock on Ends as much as it is a praise on the other two. So it's just the other two are really, really enjoyable as a 1-2 kind of punch. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
But-
I think the only, or go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say you are correct though. Halloween Ends will always be a hot take, no matter what side you take. It's I don't know. Maybe I stand by. I think over time, the line will blur. People will soften on it and be like, "Oh, it's not as bad as what we thought." But as it stands right now, it's still a very divisive film. Not as much so as when it was released. But again, I think over time it softens. But it is a film that people seem to have strong opinions on.
Yeah. And I was just going to add to that, it's funny because when like you said, you did say that you think, I remember specifically you at one point said, it is very possible that one day the movie will be viewed in a much different light than it is now. I feel like that kind of stuck with me a little bit because as I let time go on, I started thinking about the movie more, and especially as we approached this year's Halloween, I was like, I really want to rewatch all of those movies. And I was just thinking to myself, man, I just need to get around to it. And I watched Halloween and Halloween Kills before we re-recorded, but I had yet to watch Halloween Ends when we recorded our anniversary episode. But yeah, it was such a weird, it was a very weird rewatch because I've very rarely, if ever, rewatched a movie that I didn't like the first time around and then was like, wow, this was really good. Typically, I'm very much a stick to my guns kind of person. If I watch a movie, I'm either going to like it or I'm not. And typically that's the end of it. A lot of movies I watch are like that. And in fact, if anything, it goes the other way where I'm like, well, that movie didn't age as well as I remember it was, or, something like that. So rewatching a movie that I did not really care for the first time around and definitely had some strong opinions about, going back and rewatching that was definitely interesting. And, like you said, obviously it's a very divisive movie. It was when it came out in 2022, and it still is to this day. I still see people talking about it on the internet. And like you said, I think this would be a very vastly discussed topic years from now when people are looking at large scale retrospectives about the whole series as just as a whole. And, like you said, I think that eventually people will soften their opinions of this movie. I know that I've already softened my opinion, and it's only been a year. But I think it's because I honestly, truthfully, I think that I did like the movie when I first watched it, but it didn't meet the expectations that I set for it, which kind of sent me down that rabbit hole. But yeah, like you said, I think it's a hot take to like that movie or even to dislike that movie. I feel like there's a lot of people on both sides of that fence that are like, yeah, let's duke this out.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's a matter of perspective and comparison, right? Because since that's come out, I mean, I'm gonna be frank, right? Scream 6 has come out. Scream 6 kind of disappointed me in some parts, right? It was a little lukewarm as far as a Scream movie goes. So maybe, it's like, I don't know. Maybe that's what kind of maybe even softened my views. Like, maybe I felt a little more about that than I did Scream 6. And maybe over time Scream 6 will soften. I don't know. It's weird how these things work, right? You get so caught up in the excitement of the release, and maybe sometimes you set the bar too high. I mean, this is not like it's just these are run of the mill movies, right? These are just some, going to see Talk to Me. We didn't have expectations. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know what to expect. And it kind of, oh, wow, this was great. But man, we're passionate about the Halloween franchise or the Scream franchise or whatever. So when you go in, you want to be blown away, right? You want to feel what you felt when you watched some of your favorites, and you want that again. So there's something to measure it against. And so it's hard to judge it on its own, right? I mean, look at us. We rank them, right? We're comparing them against the others. I'm not saying that's wrong. It is what it is. But sometimes it's hard to take a movie and a franchise out of the franchise and just look at it on its own without comparatively speaking of, okay, that was an all right film, but it's not Halloween, right? It's not whatever, Halloween 3 or whatever the movies you like are, whichever ones you are. You're always saying that, right? It's so it's hard to say, okay, it's an all right movie, but there's always that but. It feels like when you're talking a franchise, especially a long running franchise, especially these franchises that are like, on the Mount Rushmore, right? These are the we're talking the top tier franchise. I mean, this is Halloween. So it's anything with that Halloween label on it that's part of that franchise. I mean, you're already in a hole trying to fight out before you've even made that movie, because there is a level of expectation even before you've done anything. So, you're not coming in it with a blank slate, or you're not coming into it with a level playing ground. You're coming into it with years and years and years of established fandom that's like, don't screw this up already. So, you're already playing from behind. So it's sometimes hard. And I don't envy those positions. We all sit around and say, oh, I could have written a better, bullshit. Come on. You know what? Everybody thinks they have these great ideas. Okay, come on. People, you can have fun ideas or whatever else. But when you try to flesh them out and put them in the form of a script and a full-length film, it's not as easy as just coming up with a couple of ideas like people like to think it is, right? People think it's so, give me a break. I don't buy that shit, but so, all right, there we go.
Right.
We got rolling on the hot takes. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back with our news and birthdays, anniversaries, all that fun stuff. So stick around. Make sure you subscribe to Listen to Their Screams on your favorite podcast platform. Also, make sure you look us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, and Slasher. All you have to do is look up Listen to Screams. That is Listen, the number 2 in Screams, and you can find us there. Also, make sure you go and buy yourself a Listen to Their Screams t-shirt. You can find all of our shirts at tinyurl.com/Screams Shirts.
Spread the news. Spread the news. Spread the news. And we're back with the news. All right, starting us off strong with the news. This is not a hot take, but Five Nights at Freddy's became Blumhouse's highest grossing movie ever. It was released in theaters in Peacock on, of course, October 27th, and it has so far earned $283.1 million worldwide at the box office. And if you want to hear our review of this, it was reviewed on our November 2nd episode. But I'm not surprised by this. I knew this was going to be a record-breaking movie of some sort. I knew it was going to be big. I mean, it was a great movie. I've seen it like 3 times now.
Yeah, I mean, we said this, right? We said, I mean, it was a given, right? Very few times can you say, all right, there's a movie that's just easy money, right? I mean, this is easy money because it's a big franchise. It's a big property. It's not some unknown entity. So even if people say, oh, that was a horrible movie, it's still going to make money.
Oh, yeah.
It's still going to be big. So, because people are going to go see it in floods. So being the first movie out of the gate, no matter what they put out there, it's a surefire success is what you were going to get.
Yep, absolutely. But actually, one other thing too, I heard, this is just rumored by the way, but I actually heard there were at least going to be 2 more movies of the Five Nights movies. That was a rumor. I don't know if it's substantiated, but I guess Matthew Lillard said something about it during an interview where he signed a contract or something. But hey, if there are going to be other movies, this is a good sign.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And again, that's, even those contracts, even if you sign on for 3 movies, it's not a guarantee you'll get all 3. But I don't see any reason why they would not complete it. I mean, there's so many things to do with it. I mean, we've talked recently about all the Scream stuff and with them, and there's lots of there's some more information coming out to light, right? That the Jenna Ortega thing, her leaving was actually, they said, predated the Barrera leaving, is what people are saying, right? So, the complexity is, you never say, there's no surefire things, right? People can get fired and leave, and things happen, and there's out clauses, and there's all these things. But I mean, there's absolutely. I mean, again, this is a big franchise. It's made a lot of money. There's no reason to believe that, we know we're going to get a second one, and there's no reason to believe that the second won't match the first, that will lead to a third. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a sure bet.
Oh yeah, but we shall see. Speaking of movies, we also have Eli Roth's Thanksgiving grossing $10,306,272 on its opening weekend, which was good for number 3 behind the new Hunger Games movie and the Trolls movie. Actually, I guess I forgot about it, but last week I went and watched the Hunger Games movie, but it's not a horror movie, but I completely forgot about it. But it was a good one. It was actually really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Hunger Games. I'm not like a huge fan where I'm going to rush out and get them or see them or anything else. But we thought Thanksgiving would do good, right? Because of the uniqueness of the movie. I hoped for a number 1, right? Because I like to see horror movies score. But, I mean, the Hunger Games and Trolls, that's too big, again, 2 big franchises. That's rough to go head to head with. So, 10 million, number 3, that's not too shabby.
Yep. Absolutely. Upcoming birthdays, here we come. So we got some good ones, of course, as always. We always have good ones, of course. But November 30th, 1978, we have Robert Kirkman, the co-creator of The Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman, of course, I mean, you hear that name, it is synonymous with Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman, Walking Dead, they are one and the same. But yes, love Robert Kirkman, love his product. And I'm very excited to see where the new product goes as well. There's a lot of new stuff coming out for The Walking Dead, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, and Kirkman does a lot of other cool stuff. He has his own, comic imprint now called Skybound, and they've recently picked up the G.I. Joe and the Transformers properties, which is big to me, right, as an 80s kid. And he's very passionate about those. And so far, there are a few issues in, and so far, those have been great. So, Kirkman's creative, and he's passionate, and it shows in his projects.
Absolutely. And we also have December 1st, 1945, we have Bette Midler. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, Bette Midler's not really any horror movies. You're probably right. But she was in Hocus Pocus. And Hocus Pocus is an honorary scary movie around these Halloween times because Hocus Pocus is good fun.
Yeah. I mean, not really horror per se or whatever else, but it is. It's a Halloween staple. I believe in our Halloween episode, we talked to, I think one of the questions was something about the most watched movie at Halloween or whatever. I think Hocus Pocus was it. So it's it's not really horror per se. I mean, they're witches. It's Halloween, so close enough.
There you go. And then we also have Tony Todd on December 4th, 1964, known for his act in Candyman and Hatchet. Obviously, Dave and I both love Tony Todd. We love Candyman. We love Hatchet. But Candyman's definitely, I feel like, his iconic role. His voice, his demeanor, just everything about Tony Todd's amazing. He also plays, I believe they call him Death in the Final Destination movies. And I heard that he is on board for the new one that's coming out too, whenever that's supposed to come out.
Yeah, of course, Tony Todd's Candyman. And I will, when I think of Tony Todd, I will always think there was a convention that Monica and I went to. It was a Star Trek convention. And Tony Todd, I believe, had a bit part in one series of Star Trek. I can't remember what exactly. But he was at this convention. And it was. I will take this back. It was Star Trek and it was sci-fi. It wasn't just purely Star. It was primarily Star Trek. Anyway, Tony Todd was there. We watched his panel and everything else, but he was at his table signing, and we pretty much couldn't go to the table because Monica was freaked out because every time he spoke, it invoked those visions of Candyman with that voice. So that I will always think of that when I think of Tony Todd.
Absolutely. Tony Todd's a spooky man, but I hear he's really nice. Oh, Lord. All right. So we have some upcoming movie anniversaries. First and foremost, November 30th, 1990, we have Misery, based on Stephen King's 1987 novel of the same exact name. Misery, of course, if you've never heard it. It has James Caan, Kathy Bates. Those are the main two. But it's about the author that gets rescued from a car crash, and the lady's crazy and like keeps him there and stuff. I've actually never seen this movie. I have just seen the some cartoons spoofed it. I think it was The Simpsons. I think it was a Treehouse of Horror. They spoofed it, so it was either that or Family Guy. Either way, I know it. Never seen it though.
Oh, it's a great movie. Yeah, it's about the what do you call it? The over passionate fan, whatever I'm trying to say, right? She was such a huge fan of his. She held him captive, wanted him to rewrite the end of his series or something. Most known for I'm not most known, but really known for there's a scene where she puts like a cinder block or a block of wood or something between his ankles and then hits his ankles with a sledgehammer to break his ankles. So it's just such a crossover into pop culture, right? Where you hear when you have, an overzealous fan that's obsessive like this, you oftentimes hear that, right? Is this a misery moment? Is this a misery thing? You hear that in so much stuff now. But it's a great movie.
Love it. I'll have to check it out. I like Kathy Bates, and I do like a good Stephen King book. So, we also have November 30th, 2012. We have The Collection, which is a sequel to the 2009 The Collector. I have sung the praises of The Collector and The Collection before, so I'll sing them again. They are both criminally underrated slasher movies. It's honestly, it truly is a travesty that more people have not seen these movies. I've actually I heard somewhere, and again, I'm like hooked into all these weird like rumor mills, so I'm sorry if I keep saying, I heard, but I heard that they are actually remaking The Collector, or they're going to do like a requel type thing, because if you've ever seen The Collection, which is the second movie, Josh Stewart, who's actually in both movies, he plays JJ's husband in Criminal Minds, for people who can't place him. That's where I know him from. Yep. He survives, I believe, in the last movie. So I heard that they were going to do something with him, and there's like a whole plot thing that people have theorized about. But if it happens, that'd be great. I think it could do well as a requel, especially since it's not super well known. So, but that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, there's a few quote unquote franchises. I know this is only a couple movies that I think are underrated. I think this is definitely one. I think the Hatchet movies are still underrated. I think they're a lot of fun. There's several things out there, but The Collector is really good, and The Collection is pretty good too. So I don't think they get enough props.
Agreed. And then we also have December 2nd, 2022. You heard that right. Violent Night. We actually reviewed this on our December 8th, 2022 episode. Violent Night. Honestly, it's just a fun movie. Don't go into Violent Night thinking that you're about to get some Oscar award-winning movie, but it's a good movie. David Harbour plays Deadly Santa, and it's great. I love Violent Night. Yeah,
me too. It's one of those that will be a yearly rewatch around the Christmas horror, around Christmas time for me. But it's a fun movie.
100% agreed. And then we also have another fun movie that we reviewed. December 4th, 2015, we have Krampus. We reviewed this on our December 22nd, 2022 episode. Krampus is such a good movie. Again, I think it's a very criminally underrated horror movie and a Christmas movie. It's about Krampus. It's a story that, you've heard before. You may have even heard about it like in high school or something. You know what I mean? When they start talking about the history of Christmas, Krampus is sort of a part of that history, and it's such a good movie. It's so good, so creative. I love Adam Scott and Toni Collette, as well as the number of other great actors in that movie. So, such a good movie.
Yeah, it is. There's only about 1 million movies with Krampus in the title, and of that, but this is to me is one of the most fun of them all.
Yeah, there are, like he said, there are a lot of movies that have Krampus in the title, but they are not all the same. That is for sure.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but I saw somebody on, X or one of the social media platforms. It's this year I have a goal to watch all any movie that has Krampus in the title or is about Krampus. I'm like, dude, I don't know if there's enough hours to do that. But.
There are not enough hours in the day. True. Oh Lord. But all right. Upcoming releases, and this is big, guys. These are some big movies, and I'm pretty excited for some of these. So upcoming on the 5th, we have Nightmare on 34th Street coming straight to video on demand, and we are actually going to be reviewing this on our next episode, which is out December the 7th. Nightmare on 34th Street. I have not seen a whole lot about it, but it looks good. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm very stoked.
Yeah, me too. It's there's that whatever Miracle on 34th Street. That's the play on word, play on the words or whatever the title. But again, I'm down for any Christmas horror. There's just a special place in my jolly little heart for Christmas horror, and I look forward to seeing this and talking about it next episode.
Yep. Actually, I just looked up on IMDb. I believe it's an anthology. I think it's going to be 4 stories.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for anthologies, so you got me. And then we also have It's a Wonderful Knife. Comes to Shudder on December the 1st, and we will actually be reviewing this on the 14th. I have already seen It's a Wonderful Knife. I went to the theaters to check it out. I'm very happy that it's coming to streaming so quickly. It's a very quick turnaround. Probably the best idea, with these days. You want to get those movies out on streaming as soon as possible, start raking in some buku bucks. But I will save all of my merriment and cheer for this movie for that episode. But small spoiler, I liked it. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like you said, you've seen it. I haven't seen it. There's nothing more for me to say. I love Christmas horror movies. Anything within the realm, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping these, all these that we're talking about and that we're going to be reviewing, I hope they become just regular views.
Yes.
In my annual Noel Horror Fest every year. So
very, very, very good. And then we also have one more movie releasing. We've actually already reviewed this movie, but Exorcist Believer comes to Peacock on December 1st. So they're putting out all these good movies right before everybody, gets some time off for Christmas. So make sure you spend your time off wisely and watch some spooky movies. But we actually reviewed this movie back on October 12th, 2023. So, because this just recently came out a couple months ago. But yeah, that was a good one. It was enjoyable. I'll probably give it a rewatch once it goes on streaming.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed it enough that I'll, watch again. I know, again, this is one of those movies that got hit hard online, but I'm like, ugh, come on. It was a fun movie. I liked it. So anyway, hopefully people, whether they've seen it or not, will give it a watch on Peacock.
Yep, absolutely. Gotta love Peacock. All right. So I think that pretty much does it. Yeah, I don't have any more on my list. So you have heard it here. You've heard all the upcoming, news, birthdays, movie release anniversaries, and other upcoming releases. I've said it every time that I've gotten to this point in the podcast. If you don't follow us on social media, you're a loser. So don't be a big LOSER and follow us on social media. You will not be. What's the word I'm looking for? You will not be sorry or disappointed. You will not be sorry and or disappointed. But in any case, when we come back, we will have our official review of the Night of the Missing.
Listen to Their Screams is now a Fangoria collaborator. Get 20% off your order at shop.fangoria.com by using the promo code LISTEN2SCREAMS at checkout. That is listen, the number 2, and screams. Or you can click the link in the show notes.
All right, and welcome back to Listen to Their Screams. It is time for our movie review for this episode. And like Ike said, it is for Night of the Missing, which is available now on Screambox. It was written by Samuel Gonzalez Jr. and Gigi Gustin, directed by Samuel Gonzalez Jr. and Matthew Hirsch, starring Meredith Thomas and Jill Aubrey. And it is described as the sheriff of a small town as a serial killer. A mysterious woman visits her and starts a conversation about the crimes she committed. And this, again, this was kind of an anthology-like movie. There were some short segments that all tied back to these missing people. And you kind of know, like you said, they put it right there, right? That the sheriff, she's a serial killer. There's this woman that comes and sees her, knows about these missing people, tells stories about these missing people, what happened. I don't know. Here's the thing. I watched this movie. It was all right. It was okay, but I don't know. I come out of it with more questions than I went into it with. I'm not sure about this mysterious woman. I'm not sure why she knows any of this. I don't know if I missed something, but I don't know why she knows these things. I know she gets killed in the end by the serial killer sheriff. And I don't know. This movie was so ho-hum to me. There was nothing that hooked me, nothing that exciting, right? There was some intriguing little aspects here and there of the stories, but it didn't flow well. It didn't fit together. I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know even what to say, because it's like the sheriff was a serial killer, and there was all these segments, and there was like this board in the sheriff's department with all these missing people posters. They had all these missing people, which I'm presuming that all of them are because of the sheriff, which, if that's the case, she's the most prolific serial killer of all time, because there's just multitudes of them. And they show a few of them and what happens to them. And while they're okay, the stories are okay. The little, stories about them. It's like, I don't know. There's a little bit of a supernaturalist approach to it, I think, because like one of the segments, there's a train set up, a train layout with a little miniature people. And there's this guy, it's like cleaning the room, and he hears voices and he's watching the train layout. And that's what's happening with those people. It's in the train. I don't know. I don't even know I don't know. Is the sheriff some kind of supernatural being? Fuck, I don't know. Why was this woman seen and knowing what? Because she walks into the sheriff saying there's somebody missing, and the sheriff's taking her statement, and she's telling all these stories about people where she's seen on the missing board. Well, how the hell does she know these? I don't understand. They didn't explain. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a supernatural element, I guess, which means you just have to, I guess, suspend belief, which is okay. I can suspend, a little disbelief or whatever, but give me a reason to, I guess. I don't know. Again, it didn't flow that well. It didn't, I don't know. I wanted to like the movie, but I don't. I really, really don't. I did not enjoy this movie. I don't know. I can't really even, I like to try to find redeeming qualities. I guess the acting was pretty decent in it, but I don't know. That's all I can find. Cause I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Gonzalez, with the writing and everything. I don't know. It didn't make enough sense to me. I like movies with the segments and then the wraparound segments, where it, at least somehow it ties a little bit, or at least brings it back together somewhat, where it's a context. And it's not just like hey kids, watch this cartoon, where it has nothing to do with anything else. It's just, and that's outside these people being missing people in this town, which you presume the sheriff killed. They're not really missing, they're dead because the sheriff, killed them. It's like, what, and I don't know, at the end, she's doing something to the woman that she killed, and she puts it parts of it into a bag that looks like a Santa bag. So is that the supernatural? Is she Santa? And Santa's really I don't even know. I don't know. I cannot formulate. There wasn't enough here for me to formulate any kind of theory about this. So, and I'm okay with some openness and some interpretation, but not when you don't, if you want me to build the castle, give me enough blocks to build a wall. And I don't feel like I have that. And it was really kind of weird and freaky to me. So.
Yeah. Right. So here's what I'll say. I do feel like I want to give this maybe another watch, just because I watched it the first time through, and maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention. But I kind of understand where you're coming from. I just felt like there were a couple missing pieces to me. I don't know exactly what it is. I will say this, there are some positive things about this movie. One of the things is that I liked a few of the people who were in this movie. Honestly, all of the acting was relatively good. But a few people I wanted to kind of point out is, obviously, we have Bill Moseley, who he's been in a million things, but I believe he was in Natty Knox. He played Abner Honeywell, which we reviewed.
And he's a big Rob Zombie guy. He's in a lot of Rob Zombie stuff.
He sure is. which we'll forgive him for that.
Actually, he's some of the brighter spots of some of the Rob Zombie stuff.
There you go. And then Jenna Cannell was in this as well, who plays Tara in Terrifier, the first one. She was also, I realized she was in Renfield too. She played one of the people at the what's it called?
The self-help group.
Yeah, the self-help group, which I didn't realize, which is awesome.
Yep.
And one other person I had to mention was Steven Strickland in the movie. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, Dave, I don't know if you looked into this, but he looked really familiar to me. He's a professional wrestler that he goes by Shane Strickland, who we have talked to before. We've actually interviewed this guy before on the Dave Dynasty show, way back when, in 2016, I believe.
Yep. He's actually on AEW right now. Yep. Which
is nuts to me. I didn't realize it was him until I started looking at the IMDb, and I was like, holy shit, that's him. That's him. Oh my god. So that was really cool. That was really cool to see him in there. So that was a bright spot for me in this movie. I realized, like, wow, holy shit, I've talked to this guy before. Like, I've legitimately had a conversation with a guy in a movie. So that was really cool. But back to the movie itself. I don't think the movie was horrible. Like you said, I was very intrigued because it was an anthology-esque movie. I've said it so many times. I'm a complete whore for anthology movies. You put a good anthology in front of me, it's just, oh man, I'm gonna love it. But there is a very fine line with anthologies, right? Anthologies have this very, 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 very fine, very thin line that you tread, right? And that line is, are you making an anthology to make an anthology, or are you making an anthology to make a cohesive story? And sometimes people just make anthologies for it to be bits and pieces. But what makes an anthology good is when you can take the bits and pieces and you can make it a story. And in my opinion, unfortunately, The Night of the Missing did not stick to that line as good as it could have. I think that there are a lot of little pieces here and there that did kind of connect. It did make a cohesive story, but there was a lot of things that were left unsaid, or were left up to interpretation. And again, like Dave said, it's perfectly fine to have some wander, right? It's okay to have some questioning left to a movie, because truthfully, some of the best movies are movies that they don't show you everything. They don't say everything. They don't spell it out for you. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be spelled out for me. However, when you make an anthology, there does need to be a little bit of that, just because you want to be able to take somebody from point A to point B, and you're telling a bunch of different stories. And if you don't tell it right, it's not going to make any sense. So, Night of the Missing was not horrible by any means. It was not a bad movie. It's not as bad as some movies we've seen. It's not as bad as the fucking baby in that one movie, the Cannibal Cabin. Yeah. That'll be something I'll never forget. It's not as bad as Cannibal Cabin, you know what I mean? Every movie I've ever seen has been better than Cannibal Cabin. But yeah, absolutely. It's not a horrible movie, but I feel like it just needs a little bit of tweaking, a little bit more work, and it would be a really good movie, but it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the concept of what they thought, right? They thought there's the concept of there's a town with a lot of missing people.
Right.
So we'll tell these segments about different ones of these missing people, and come to find out, the sheriff's the killer of this, all right. And so the wraparound will be that there's this woman who is telling this story about these people, and it's got the sheriff uneasy. So the sheriff but they don't, I don't know. Again, unless I completely miss it, I don't understand the why she knew what was going on. It was weird to me. And I don't know. It missed a little bit. Not probably a movie that I will be clamoring to give a rewatch to. But it is, it's a whatever. It's one of those, streaming type movies. It's it's there. It's not that, it is what it is. It was only like an hour and 15 minutes. So there's that. And, they didn't try, they didn't overdo. They didn't overstay the welcome, which if they had done that would have made it all the worse. So, But yeah, novel concept. Nice cast. Really, I think the writing was a little weak. Again, we've said it before, right? You can have the greatest cast in the world, but they've got to have something to work with to really take it to that next level. And I think there were some holes here and some misses with the writing. So, well, it is what it is. But let's rate this dog. Again, some misses for me. Again, it's not like what I would call a complete blowout of a movie where it was just completely horrendous or a complete waste of time, or where I feel like it completely just made me want to bang my head against the wall. But I didn't enjoy it all overall, so I'm going to have to give this thing a 2 out of 5. Ike.
I gotcha. He gave it a 2 out of 5. People know me. I'm a little more lenient with these types of things, so I'm going to give it like a 2.5 out of 5. Like I said, it was better than Cannibal Cabin. I'm pretty sure I gave Cannibal Cabin a 2. So 2.5 out of 5 would be kind of where I want to set this at. Like I said, I just feel like I was missing something, and it very well could have been. I had the movie on, I was watching it, but every now and then I'd have to take my attention away to do something else. So it is possible maybe I didn't watch the movie close enough. So, I'll give it another watch at some point, and maybe I'll have a Halloween Ends moment, but probably not. Don't get your hopes up.
Probably not.
But yes, 2.5 out of 5. 2.5 out of 5.
Well, there you go. So a 2.25 average
Yeah,
on this movie. I think that's fair. So anyway, it is on Screenbox. Go give it a watch and see what you think. Give us some feedback and let us know. I'm a little more hopeful for next episode. I'm a little more optimistic because, like we said earlier, next episode we are going to be reviewing Nightmare on 34th Street, which will be available video on demand on December 5th. So make sure you check that out as we are going to be reviewing that on our next episode. And also make sure you follow us on social media. We're on pretty much any platform. Just look up Listen to Screams. It's Listen, the number 2 in Screams, and you can find us there. And also make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. And on whichever platform that you do choose to subscribe, make sure you set us to auto download so you never miss an episode. It's always waiting there for you. And if it's a possibility, give us a rating and review, because that helps us in those algorithms. So when people are listening to other similar podcasts, we come up as a suggested listen. And that is a great way for more eyes to get on our product. And so that's it. We're going to put a wrap on this week, which means we are officially putting a wrap on November. And next episode, we will be into the first week of December, which means we are in the socially, I guess, acceptable time for the Christmas season, although I've been in the Christmas mood for a week or two now. But we'll officially be in the Christmas season. That means, like we said, Christmas horror for the month of December for us. Ho, 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 motherfuckers. And that we're going to be a couple of jolly horror-loving sons of bitches here on Listen to the Screams. So trim your tree and do all that shit and just be ready for some jolly old elves here.
That's right.
I'm looking forward to it. I love Christmas. I love holiday-themed horror, but Christmas horror just, I don't know, it works for me. For some reason, it clicks. I cannot wait to watch Black Christmas. I cannot wait to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night. I cannot wait to watch Violent Night again. Cannot wait to watch Krampus. I love these movies. These are just such fun movies to me. I always look forward to this time of year. And that's not even taking into account all the other non-horror Christmas movies and holiday specials and animated specials that I love. I can't wait to watch it all. So Very excited. I do love the Christmas season. But before we know it, it'll be January and it'll be just a woeful time as the holidays will be behind us, and we'll all be into another year. So let's enjoy the next 4 weeks so we can.
That's right.
Spiked eggnog for all. So, Ike, before we close out the month of November, put a bow on it leading into the holiday season. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd want to add is, we kind of always say it, but, be safe this time of year. A lot of places, it's getting cold. The crazies are coming out. I mean, we made it through Black Friday, right? I think the movie Thanksgiving really depicts why Black Friday shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
But we made it through Black Friday. I didn't see any crazy incidents. So let's make it through the Christmas season too, guys. Let's make it a good year in Christmas. Like be safe, be happy, be healthy. Like I said, we got a long time before Christmas, but I gotta say it now because Santa's always watching. If you're naughty or you're nice,
Mm-hmm.
so let's be nice this year, guys. Let's be nice.
Yep. If you're nice, he'll bring you gifts. If you're not, he'll stab you with a sharpened candy cane. So,
Amen.
yeah. So, remember, it's, the moral of the story of the season is to relax and catch your breath and spend time with family and friends or by yourself or whatever it is. Just a time to regroup, refresh, reflect, and go into the next year optimistic, right? It's not about the gifts. It's not about the this and that. So don't stress that stuff. And just, enjoy and just enjoy, right? We're wrapping up a year. We're moving into a new year. There's always that freshness and optimism that comes with that and, and everything else. So, just remember that. And like we said, right, we love horror, and I'm sure since you listen to us, you love horror as well, and you watch horror year round, but people get, time off during this time. So take advantage of that and, watch a little extra horror. Dive into something you wouldn't normally watch, right? Or if you hit the high notes, go a little deeper. And remember, you can always buy a Listen to the Scream shirt for all your favorite horror fans on your Christmas list. There's a link in the show notes if you'd like to do that. Or there's lots of good horror books out there. Obviously DVDs, subscription to horror services, figures, there's games, there's all kinds of stuff that you can buy for the horror fan on your list or buy for yourself if you shop for yourself, whatever you want to do. But we do like to ask, support the show. And like I said, there's Listen to the Scream shirts. Those make nice gifts. So check those out. Motherfuckers. If that's not enough jolliness for you, I don't know what is.
Yeah, for real. It just reminds me of the Christmas Vacation. Hallelujah. Holy shit.
Where's the Tylenol?
That's right.
Yeah, that's such a great movie to explain how people get caught up in certain aspects of Christmas and forget the most important aspects of it, right? It's so go. And it's a little easier now to not, right? Because you can shop online and do things like that. And so take advantage of those opportunities to take a breath, sit on your couch, watch a horror movie, do your Christmas shopping on Amazon or online or at the Listen to the Screams t-shirt store. And, and don't get caught up in the hecticness, right? Enjoy a nice, fresh, refreshing glass of eggnog in your Wally the Moose mug, like in Christmas Vacation, and enjoy the twinkle lights on the tree. So, because we're not getting any younger, so enjoy the moments while you can. So,
I'm into that.
Woohoo! Let's get out of here, Clarence. Let's put a close on another episode, and until next week, like we said, we'll be in December. So be prepared, motherfuckers, for the man. I've called our listeners motherfuckers like 5 times here in the last 2 minutes. I don't know what's got into me. I'm sorry. We start talking about Christmas, and suddenly I'm like John. I'm John McClane.
I was going to say John McClane over here.
I don't know what the hell happened here, but I don't know. Anyway, until next episode, be good, be safe, and have many pleasant nightmares.